We're here to dedicate Camino Campana, which is the fourth interactive trail within our gateway system. And we'll have a chance to look at that and all the effort that went into it. It's an interpretive trail, meaning that people put a lot of thought into it as to where maybe birds nest and where there may be some human archaeology, where there could have been signs of how we touched, our forebears touched the area, and of course the different kinds of vegetation that bring it to life. So a lot of introspective knowledge and care went into that. This trail, Camino Campana, was named in March of 2020 by Mayor and Council, so we thank them for that. We're going to get to, there's certain things you'll see along the way. There are benches which were assembled from handmade brick, and part of our human services outreach involves teaching a craft and being able to get back into the pleasure of building something from the earth. So these are part of the bench system that you're going to be seeing as well. And when we look at the holistic side of Scottsdale, right, there's so much variety of where we are and where we came from, and the man-built with care, and of course the nature creation. I have to, there are too many to name as far as the stewards of our beautiful preserve. And at this time we have 11 gateways, and on November 13th we'll be unveiling the 12th gateway. And the gateway by itself, we have parking, we have facilities, but really the gateway is the people. And the stewards that are here are the real voice to the land and the care and the dedication that they give. Part of, again, reverting to where we are today on Halloween and remembering the souls, I would say I remember Chet Andrews. And Chet, if you remember him, is one of the most dedicated participants in our steward program. There again, I think as you start to add it up, why those of us that are here today and past, present, and future, right, make it all wonderful. I will call forward Justin Owen. He's a conservationist. The conservatory has been really the guiding force in keeping our preserve and what it is today. So go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Ortega. My name is Justin Owen. I'm the CEO of the McDowell Sonoran Conservancy. And I can just tell everybody it is such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I am up here representing the over 700 stewards, board members, and staff members that the mayor spoke about. We wouldn't be able to do what we do today without our amazing stewards. And thank you to the council members, former and current, and mayor for being here. But also I'd like to thank all of our preserve pioneers. We were very fortunate to recognize our preserve pioneers, the people who made this place possible. A couple of years ago, I see Carla here. Thank you, Carla. I know I saw Christine and a lot of the other folks that really helped bring this place together. It is exciting that I get to stand up here on the Conservancy's 30th anniversary this year and talk a little bit about Sam. Sam has been a lifelong supporter. As Joan will talk to you a little bit later, she was at our earliest land trust meetings back when we were the McDowell Sonoran Land Trust. And I'm proud to say she is an active steward. For all that she had on her plate during her 12 years on council, and then also as mayor, overseeing the growth of the recommended study boundary from its original 16,000 acres to the over 30,000 acres that it is today, as well as all of her work throughout the community, whether it be through Audubon or other organizations helping found Scottsdale leadership. I can say that it's been exciting to watch Sam instill that ability to give back to the community, not only in the citizens and volunteers, but also in her own family. I know I saw Katie this morning and all of the work that she does and the philanthropic work across the Valley of the Sun. So everyone, welcome so much to today's trailhead opening. It was funny because in talking to Sam and learning a lot about it, the Conservancy's place and what Sam helped facilitate was the conversation originally about, okay, City of Scottsdale, if you buy the land, we'll help you look after it. I love that quote because it's not, we're going to do it by ourselves. It's not, you're going to do it yourselves. We're going to help you do that. Today's celebration really highlights the unique partnership that the city has with the McDowell Sonoran Conservancy. Our stewards helped with every single part of this interpretive trail. I remember when the stewards walked the original trail area before it was graded, before it was anything, and helped realize the vision of what is today. And it was how to create that interpretive experience the mayor spoke about. From what started as a concept of we must be able to see the unseen in the Sonoran Desert is what you're going to see today as you walk that trail. It's to look beyond just yourself, to look beyond just what you are doing in that moment on the trail, and look further, whether it's into our history, whether it's the flora and the fauna. It is to look beyond that and see the unseen that is the Sonoran Desert. I'm proud every single day to brag that the Sonoran Desert is the most biologically diverse desert in the world, and it's right here. I'm also happy to brag every single day that over 30 years ago, people like Sam envisioned this place that is now the largest urban preserve in North America, right here in Scottsdale. Over a period of many months, the concept of See the Unseen grew into the signage that you'll see today. As I said, it helps you focus on looking beyond what is right in front of you, whether it be who lived here, whether it be what are those holes in the desert that everyone else asks me about? What is soil crust? What are these pieces that are so much more? Today is also possible because of the great collaborations we had. You'll hear a little bit about the artists of Cattletrack and what they've incorporated into this, as well as Sam championing the ability to have multilingual opportunities on the trail. To be able to have Spanish-speaking guides here today, if there's anyone that would like to experience it in another language. I know our stewards volunteered hundreds and hundreds of hours on this, and it is such an amazing moment to be able to stand here with you and welcome this trail. We are proud of what we have accomplished together, not just now, but for the many years to come. I'll go ahead and close with my favorite quote, which Sam helps me remember on this trail. It's a Navajo proverb that goes, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." That is what I'd love everyone to remember today. And with that, I'll ask the mayor to come back up and share a little bit more with you.
Our mission is not only to preserve our beautiful Sonoran Desert, but to make sure it's accessible. And this trail in particular is very, very accessible, relatively flat, about a mile long, and that's really important. Sometimes I've been amazed when I've run into people in Show Low or Flagstaff, and I say, well, how do you like the Grand Canyon? And there are people in Flagstaff and Show Low that have never been to the Grand Canyon. Now, it's true. And you know, here we're surrounded by beauty, but this is why the stewards are so essential, that we encourage participation and we encourage access for everyone. Next, we will have Janie Ellis. I've known Janie for so long, and our mutual artist friends on Cattletrack, to also somebody that I'll bump into at the hardware store or help her load up her or buys, and that is our world. So Janie, tell us about art and culture and everything good about Scottsdale.
Thank you, Mayor. Janie Ellis, representing Cattletrack Arts Compound. For me, this is about Sam, art, and the best damn desert in the whole world. And I'm very proud of Scottsdale for saving what we've done and keep on doing it. Let's just keep doing it. We got to keep going. When Sam asked if Cattletrack would throw in some artists to help design the trail, we said we'd be delighted. The two people that are really responsible are Carlos Mandalavetia and Kim Johnson, and they put it all together. And I'm keeping it short because we got a long way to go. Thank you.
Usually art is worth 1,000 words, right? So that makes sense to me. Well, part of what we're looking at, again, in thinking of the spirits that built this place and the spirituality that we have when we enjoy connecting with the Creator connections. I also want us to think of perhaps a spirit, a person that knew the preserve, most of the preserve very well firsthand when he rode a horse. And he was a foreman on DC Ranch, and he knew some of the trails and where the calves might be hiding. And I think some of us, I'm not talking about a haunted person, or I'm not talking about, if you hear some rock or a hoof somewhere, you got to think of Harvey Noriega. And Harvey's amazing. He's also part of I mentioned him with the Dia de los Muertos last night. And, what we have is such a beautiful cultural connection. And whatever journey we've been on, right, you end up, well, a journey's a pathway, a journey's a walk, a journey is, could have started in Montana, could have started in New York, upstate, could have started wherever people may have come from and to. And then it restarted when people arrived here in Scottsdale, right? And then we started defining other trails and some of them probably were parts of what Harvey Noriega used as a horseman and knowing that area and this area. I want to turn it over to Joan Fudala and let us get going, and then she'll introduce Mayor Campana as well. So, thank you.
You know who I feel sorry for this morning? Costco. And you know why? Because everybody today came to Sam's Club. So although many of you are here as friends and family of Sam Campana, it's really significant to note that she insisted that this trail be called Camino Campana. In true Sam style, she declined to have the sole focus on her, but wanted to honor her entire family, her immediate family, and all of you, her extended family and friends, all of which have helped establish, promote, and love the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. And I don't know about you, but I can't imagine a Scottsdale without the proactive, public service-minded, and people-oriented programs that the Campanas have pursued here for decades. So for those of you who may not have the Campana family history on your nightstand, let me just mention a few highlights that bring us to the preserve today. Richard Campana served on the Scottsdale City Council from 1970 to 1980. And by the way, there's somebody who knows this better than I do, his fellow councilperson, Paul Messenger. During Dick's tenure on the council, the city took its first steps toward preserving the McDowells and creating recreational areas for outdoor enthusiasts. His council was the one that passed the hillside ordinances, which were aimed at preventing development on the McDowells. And for those of you who know your history, that didn't quite work out well, but it was a step in the right direction. That council that Dick served on also annexed land to the east that now is part of the foothills of the southern part of the preserve. He attended the dedication of the city's desert park, which at the time was opened as an equestrian area at the northern end of the Scottsdale Airport runway. And really, when it closed, it led to the development of Westworld, but certainly was again a place for outdoor recreation. And this is a really important part of preserve history. He and his fellow council members approved the purchase of 640 acres from the Bureau of Land Management for a planned McDowell Mountain Park that was never built, and probably some of us are glad because it was going to include a shooting range. But that was the very first parcel of the McDowell Sonoran Preserve that was included when the preserve was established by City Council on October 3rd, 1994. So thank you, Dick Campana, for all of those efforts. Now, Sam served, since arriving in Scottsdale in 1969, as we all know, she's championed Scottsdale's environmental issues as a volunteer, a nonprofit executive, an elected official, a mom, a grandma, a sister, and a friend to so many. Sam served on the Scottsdale City Council from 1986 to 1994, when Scottsdale and its residents began discussing in earnest the possibility of creating the McDowell Mountain Preserve, as Carla and Virginia and so many in the audience will so well remember. Her council was the one that adopted the native plant and the environmentally sensitive land ordinances back in the late 80s and early 90s. And they were the ones to appoint the very first McDowell Mountain Task Force that recommended establishing the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. Sam attended meetings, as Justin said, of the very inaugural year of the McDowell Sonoran Land Trust and continued to be active, including, as Justin said, becoming a steward. Then, as Scottsdale's mayor from 1996 to 2000, she provided visionary leadership, which secured the first McDowell Sonoran Preserve land acquisitions funded by the 1995 voter-approved sales tax and the 1996 voter-approved bonding capability. She and her city council advocated expansion of the preserve boundary to include over 19,000 acres of Sonoran desert land north of the McDowell Range, which voters approved in 1997, and of which Carla served as the chair of that task force. Mayor Campana worked with state officials, as has been said by Mayor Ortega, like her friend Carolyn Allen, and they, along with others, helped move the Arizona Preserve Initiative forward and helped again to expand our preserve. She worked with the town of Fountain Hills and with developers like DMB, all with the intent of expanding and making more possible land acquisitions for the preserve. And Sam was also honored to officiate at the ribbon cutting for the very first public access trail into the McDowell Sonoran Preserve at Lost Dog Wash in the late 1990s. And I know at least one person in the audience was there, Christine Kovac, and of course the late Art Decabooter, represented today by his wife Mary. After her tenure as mayor, Sam Campana served as founding executive director of the Arizona Office of the National Audubon Society. And from 2014 to 18, she served as executive director for the nonprofit Desert Discovery Center Scottsdale. She, along with many in the audience, worked with the City of Scottsdale, ASU, and other partners to study and plan for what was then hoped to be an education and research center focused on the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. And although that didn't happen as we had hoped it would, so many of its concepts have turned into reality with great research and education that continues to be done in the preserve. And citing her environmental advocacy, Scottsdale Leadership awarded her the Drinkwater Award for Community Leadership. She was inducted into Scottsdale's History Hall of Fame and was honored as a Woman of the Year by both Valley Leadership and the Women of Scottsdale, just to mention a few of her awards. I can't think of an area of Scottsdale that Sam hasn't been involved in. Co-founder of Scottsdale Leadership, an arts nonprofit organization executive, a human services advocate, and she's even currently serving on Scottsdale's library board, something her librarian mother would surely have been proud of. Now, more about the Campana family. We've all watched the Campana children, Cassidy, Katie, and Richie, grow up into public service-minded adults. Each has taken the examples set by their parents and put their own stamp on the areas they pursue, from education to boys and girls clubs to the arts and civic leadership. And now, Katie and Richie are providing examples to their own children on living a life of service, the Campana way. Connor, Evan, Claire, Nicola, and Amelia are also blessed to have Dr. Lee, Penny, as well as uncles, aunts, and cousins to share in all of their life's adventures. To me, what's so dear about naming this Camino Campana is the fact that this family, in small groups or large, has and will continue to gather here. This is a family that always enjoys life together at Harkins Theaters, hiking in the preserve, at family cook-ins, up at the cabin, in Sam's garden, at Richie and Melissa's place in Ireland with the Lassies, and at countless locations throughout Scottsdale and Arizona. As I said, I can't imagine a Scottsdale or the McDowell Sonoran Preserve without the loving touch of Sam and the entire Campana family. How lucky we are to call them friends and to follow their footsteps as we hike and enjoy Camino Campana. And one final note. Sam is a prolific thanker. I personally have a file this thick of thank you notes I've received from Sam over the years for just tiny little things that maybe I did, and I bet so many of you have those as well. So I hope in some small measure this trail is our thanks to her and the entire Campana family for their dedication and love of Scottsdale and all of its people. Thank you, Sam.
With a life as rich as mine, there are going to be a lot of 1 degree of separations. Even this morning, I have to separate some people from others so that there's not too much fact-checking going on. So specifically, stay away from my brothers, the big tall guys over there, Polly, Marky, and Jackie, and their wives, Kay and Shirley and Gail. When I tell you that my outdoor ethic comes from my dad, growing up in rural Idaho, hunting, fishing, hoeing beets, picking potatoes, living off the land. Yeah, they may want to tell you a different story, so stay away from them. I was recently in Dublin for a month to be with Richie and Melissa and their lassies, Claire Grace and the twins, Nicola and Amelia. I had really this very vivid dream about this event. This dedication. I was getting ready in our old home in Filer, Idaho, running late, of course, kind of a nightmare, realistic kind of thing. Carolyn Warner was helping me pick out my shoes. Carolyn Allen was doing the dishes. I mean, really, you can't account for dreams. I asked my mom to walk with me. She was carrying food. Hurry, she said. Some people haven't even eaten yet. Dreams. And then in the dream, my brother Paul said, "And Kathy, don't talk too long." That's a true story. So I had Lee time me to see how long it actually takes to say the names of the people who made all this happen. Just under 3 minutes got added to this too long speech. Cassidy's my consummate editor. She said, "Mom's going to do what Mom's going to do." So here we go. My childhood favorite prayer, which I recite on my walks, include the phrase, "Our lives, our sweetness, and our hope. Turn then, most gracious advocate." When I had to memorize that prayer for my first communion, I didn't even know what the word advocate meant. I had to look it up and even learn how to pronounce it. But now I think my life has been one of advocacy for my family, for the arts, for the environment, for quality of life, with an emphasis on public policy. So I think, turn then, most gracious advocate. I think I got the advocacy part right for the most part, but this morning I'm still working on the gracious part. I'm going to graciously thank all those who are on this journey with me, including my Hatter friends who pray together, and we've stayed together for 38 years. Maureen, Tanya, Jackie, Margie, and Natalie. Audubon Southwest Director of Bird Conservation, Tice Saplee, is going to lead a bird walk later this morning. Our Cattletrack associates will share the creative process involved in realizing Camino Campana out on the trail. Southwest Wildlife will showcase native desert animals, and our precious Scottsdale Library is here. At the same time, what you've already heard about is the Brick by Brick program. I brought Connor and Evan out here last week so that they could help lay some of those rammed earth bricks that were made by people who have found themselves homeless temporarily, we hope, and the wonderful federally funded program that the city does. We arrived too late, but there's still going to be a 40-foot saguaro that's going to go out on the trail. So when we put that up, I'll have the boys out there helping me get that up. Thanks, boys. And when we conclude this morning, and I promise it'll still be morning, we're going to have 4 Harris hawks, siblings, those hawks, released by Liberty Wildlife right over here. So that's something that you'll want to stick around for. It should be very dramatic that those 4 siblings get to be out here in our magnificent McDowells. On October 3rd, 1994, the City Council dedicated 4.5 square miles of city-owned land as Day 1. Some of this you've heard, but it's 30,500 acre preserve that really is about 1/3 of the city's land area. 225 miles of trails are in the preserve. It's the largest municipal preserve, attracting 1.2 million annual visitors. I was especially pleased that Joan called out Richard Campana's council and citizen role in the preserve. Camino Campana includes all the Campanas and all the prior city council members, mayors, preserve commissioners, thank you Cynthia and all your commission, MSC board members and city staff. I share this honor with all of you. And I do urge you to attend the next ribbon cutting on November 13th of the Pima Dynamite Trailhead that you probably drove by getting here. It will honor the preserve pioneer of pioneers, Dr. Art Decabooter. Mary's here this morning, you know that, with the naming of an amphitheater for art, Saturday the 13th. So I hope I'll see you all there. So how did all this happen? From the very beginning, Preserve Director Scott Hamilton has overseen the development of Camino Campana. Carla, beloved Carla, the founding executive director of the Conservancy and the number uno preserve pioneer, partnered with Joan Fudala and 25 members of the community, nominated me for this honor, sent it to the 7-member Preserve Commission, fittingly enough, on St. Patrick's Day, 2020. With city staff support, the commission's approval, it was forwarded to the mayor and council on the consent agenda. Wow. I especially appreciated Councilmember Virginia Cordy, though, for making special remarks as it was approved. An enormous shout out to city staff from Dick Bowers, Jeff, Jorge, Jan Dolan, Scott, Croy, Brent, Bill Murphy, the mezzanine staff, Derek, Rachel, and so many others who worked with me on public policy and the mayor and council to support these preserve efforts. Joan did a wonderful job, thank you, Joan, of outlining our efforts during my time on the council. I was especially glad that she talked about Carolyn Allen and the role she had in the Arizona Preserve Initiative with Governor Symington and Senator McCain. We got a lot of financial resources to make some big purchases with that money. I love public policy and I love public funding. So you all know that it's not easy to surprise me, but I was really astonished when Carla and Joan told me that my name might be added to the stellar list of other preserve advocates who have already been honored. The trail route itself was largely established when I was told about it 18 months ago that it was to be named, but they knew it was important to me that it be an accessible trail for people with disabilities. So knowing that the preserve would be open to all of our community and visitors is exciting. From 40 years ago, when a group of us, Las Madrinas, founded the Scottsdale Foundation for the Handicapped, now STARS, I have tried to be especially sensitive. And now I especially appreciate, towards the end we all will be glad for these gentle slopes, large print, sturdy decomposed granite, bathrooms, and water stations. See, you're not laughing yet, but you will. One day you'll remember my saying that. Incidentally, Scottsdale earned top national recognition for people with disabilities. Our city's efforts to be including and welcoming for those include projects and actions that continually improve Scottsdale's physical environment. So vote yes on the general plan on Tuesday if you haven't already. Always the politician, we have to continue to be able to provide these amenities. So when we got started, Scott asked me what I would like to have included on the trail. Lee, see how easy that is? Just ask me and I'll tell you what I want. Just give the lady what she wants, you know? Happy wife, happy life, like my brothers say. So I had 4 wishes. Accessible, check. Bilingual, educational, and beautiful. When I moved to Scottsdale over 50 years ago, the population was about 68,000. The minority population was an invisible 6%. The 2020 census, which I did a special project with, counted that today we have 241,361 residents, the 7th largest city in Arizona, 3.4% of the state's population, but the 93rd largest city in the United States. That data also shows that just over the last decade, Scottsdale's minority population increased by almost 50%, and today comprises 21.5% of the city's population. From the 6% when I was first elected, isn't that surprising? Over 20%. I've long supported multiculturalism in Scottsdale. Audubon enlightened me on my thinking on dual language signage, as they did on so many other conservation and environmental issues. Have you been to the Nina Mason Pulliam Rio Salado Audubon Center, where we first implemented bilingual signage? With Sarah, Randy, Tice, Valerie, and our superb staff as our executive director, we were able to make that happen. Now our city will have QR codes that you'll experience out on the Camino Campana today. Ask Connor and Evan if you don't know how to do a QR sign. I had to. Now they're going to be on every trail, every new sign, and every sign the city replaces on the preserve. The Conservancy, Dear Jackie, and the stewards' response, we have the 3 Spanish-speaking stewards today, including a delightful young lady. That wish for bilingual language may one day have many languages. It opens it up to our international tourists. It supports the determination of Scottsdale sister cities to make us a global destination. There's brochures on the table about that. Richard worked on making Alamos, Mexico, our first sister city, and I've been pleased to officially continue that robust relationship. Their elected officials will be excited when they visit Fraesfield and Camino Campana and find Spanish available to their students and families. I'm so pleased. The Conservancy steward and outstanding, I missed a part. So educational, my 3rd wish. I'm pleased, overwhelmed really, with how the staff, stewards, and craftspeople caught the excitement of the trail, habitat, viewshed, history, flora and fauna, and the geology of the sites. It's really astonishing. The materials, stories, facts, science, and culture to be shared with visitors is comprehensive. My initial thoughts and concepts have all been incorporated and far exceeded. The research and attention on the science content is beyond impressive. Each of them has like a PhD level research paper edited for accessibility to most visitors, engaging, informative, and fun. If you ever want the footnotes and the provenance from where all this came from, there are hundreds of emails back and forth with staff, steward, colleagues, artisans, and more. I know all the stewards that are here today will recognize the tremendous effort required to accomplish all this. Justin has kept in touch, and it's been a pleasure working with all of his staff. The Conservancy stewards and outstanding City Preserve staff have been working for over a year on the design and layout of the trail, but a special thank you to the stewards that were on our team, Len, Sue, Dan, and Franco. Lastly, I asked if the owner of Cattletrack Arts Compound, Janie, and its arts and crafts people could work on the design and graphics. Janie's compound has welcomed artists including Phil Curtis, sculptor Louise Nevelson, authors, performers, architects, even Frank Lloyd Wright architects, trained architects, Vern Swaback and John Sather to practice there. And if you don't know Cattletrack, here's another date for you. Join Scottsdale leadership on November 20th, Saturday night, to hear Trio Rio, and that's on that historic compound. See and experience for yourself just how great Cattletrack compound really is. Dozens of thrilling artists working daily, and Leanne's here, ask her for details. The Cattletrack artists, Carlos and Kim, devoted most of the time, but it was a collaborative effort with Mark McDowell, Brent Bond, and Janie with city staff and stewards. A team of 4 from Cattletrack came out to the trail. We met, brainstormed several times, and working in tandem with that committed group of stewards who had researched the area, they came up with Unseen Sonoran Desert, the theme of the trail. My decades of working with Arizonans for cultural development, serving on the Scottsdale Public Arts Board, and meaningful relationships with Shelley, Frank, Robert, Randy, Kathy, Valerie, Rusty, Karen, Helen, and now Garrett and Kim, a lifetime of advocacy for arts and beauty motivated me to involve these uber-talented artisans and see the unseen desert in a most unique way. I want to especially thank Carlos and Kim Johnson for their interest and continued involvement. I know they're working closely with others, and there'll be more to come, just remarkable. And Janie, I think they got the beauty part just right, pitch perfect. I think those of us who worked on the Desert Discovery Center and the many advocates of the Desert Edge will feel the homage to the work that we did over those 5 years. Melinda, Christine, Randy, Diet, Dan, Lynn, Dick, Joan, Bill, Steve, Mike, Dee Dee, Diane, Art, Cece, Rachel, Kathy, Tom, all continue to work on ways to make nature more available to all of us. My commitment to the preserve education will continue now through Camino Campana. I strongly believe in access to the preserve for people who don't have the time or the desire or the ability to hike, bike, or ride, as Joan so eloquently wrote in The People's Preserve, which you can download this book for free off the city's website. I'm an official steward in need of a refresher class or 10, but it has been an unending source of joy to me to have these friends. Be sure to check out their website, and especially Lynn's photos and Dan's research pages. In a beautifully scribed article in today's Scottsdale Progress, my friend journalist David Brown quoted Christine Kovac. You recognize her name as a generous donor of 2 accessible trails in the preserve, the Bahada Trail and the Kovac Family Trail. She very generously said, Sam was thought of as the arts mayor, and she did a lot to advance the arts in Scottsdale and the Valley. But she saw the mountains and the desert as a natural form of art and an important piece of Scottsdale's character. Christine said, I always admired her for that. She wasn't afraid of being bold. Thank you, Christine. No higher praise than that. So I thank Mayor Ortega, his predecessors, Mayors Lane and Manross, city councils, the preserve commissions, the Conservancy and its stewards, Cattletrack creative team. I'm grateful for the efforts that made this accessible trail at the far east reaches of the preserve, Evan and Connor's and my favorite trail. It's been a joy working with all of you. I've hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon over 50 times and visited many of our national parks and monuments, but by far, I have spent the most time in our majestic McDowell Sonoran Preserve, and I am grateful to have been part of its preservation for our families and those who follow us. Turn then, most gracious advocate. Turn then, most gracious advocate.
Sam, you are amazing, And may those spirits of the faithful departed always enter your dreams and remind us of the joys of their lives as well. I do have a proclamation. There's 5 whereases. That's all I can say. I'm not going to read it all. But it does call attention to today. And it says, on October 31st, we unveil the Camino Campana in honor of our Honorable Mayor Sam Campana and how she helped shape the preserve we know today. Here you go. We will now release the hawks.